Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly Frankie, licensed marriage and family therapist. This is Maud. She's a little medicated. So, um, this is purely OCD. And I am just waiting here for Lauren McMeekin to join me where we talk about all things OCD. Today, we don't really have a topic in mind, so we're going to hopefully get you guys to ask us a ton of questions. This is not a replacement for therapy. This is education purposes only. Hold on, Lauren's coming. 1 second, folks.
Oh my gosh, Maud has come to join us. Hello.
Hello.
I heard that you did our It's Not a Replacement for Therapy. Well
I
done.
did,
You
in
killed
case
it.
hold on. Now my video looks wonky.
Well, while you're adjusting your video, I just want to share with everyone who's joining us. First, thank you for joining us. Also, we like to do a little disclaimer at the beginning of these bad boys because we both have bring a lot of, or try to bring a lot of humor to this work, and certainly never want it to seem flippant. But we both have OCD. We both treat OCD, and so we're never laughing at you. We're trying to help you laugh with us, I think, is the hope. Because if we can laugh at
You
OCD,
think?
it has no power. Wait, what?
You said I think. No, we're definitely doing that.
Oh, we're definitely doing that. I don't think it. I know it with 100% certainty.
Certainty. You guys, I'm sorry. The cat, I was gone all week and she's really not well right now. So
She's gonna help us talk about OCD today and answer some
she is.
questions. So
She is.
yeah,
Hopefully. Or at
yep.
least give me emotional support.
Aw, yay for Maud's emotional support. She's a very emotionally supportive cat if she likes you. It's
If
just
she she likes like two people.
yeah, I'm not one of them. Anyway,
Oh,
um,
long
so
story.
long story, but do we want to start with just an overview? I know we were talking about just like getting back to basics, and then we can answer some questions.
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
do
know.
it. What was the overview? Just what's OCD?
Yeah, like what are obsessions? What are compulsions? What's the obsessive compulsive cycle? How do we punch OCD in the face? You know, stuff like that.
I so love punching OCD in the face.
It's like one of my favorite pastimes, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to start with obsessions?
Sure. So, obsessions, when we talk about obsessions in daily life, we're often talking about fixations, which is not necessarily what we're talking about here. We're talking about thoughts and urges and images that pop into the mind that cause anxiety and uncertainty and doubt. They tend to be repetitive. They have a sticky quality to them. They're sort of difficult to shake, and they're very distressing. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you nailed it.
Thanks.
They can come in forms of thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
feelings, sensations, urges,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and anything else we need to add to that?
Just the interpretation of the experiences that we have is really what we're focused on here, right? Like you have, I saw somebody talk about uh, false attraction and HOCD, right? Like the reality is that we have these sensations or these images pop in, and the core concern is, what does that mean? What does that mean
Right.
about me that I had that thought or that, image or that urge?
Right. And so naturally, if there's this very upsetting, distressing experience, we're going to try to neutralize it or figure it out, right? What does that
Mm,
mean about me? I better
mhm.
figure that out. This is where
Better.
compulsions come in, which is where it's kind of the lock and key of OCD, the OCD cycle. So compulsions are any behavior that you are doing to try to get rid of the feeling that's very uncomfortable, or the thought So this could be checking, avoiding, reassurance seeking, mental compulsions. Someone had talked about how do we stop rumination, right? Like that is a compulsion. And we can answer that in just a moment because I think it's a really great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done.
So the OCD cycle.
Well, the problem is the good news, bad news is that sometimes trying to neutralize your feelings works, right? Like, or I'm sorry, yeah, exactly.
Short
For
period of time.
short period of time. Sometimes it works until it doesn't, right? And so let's say you have a thought. Let's take a subtype just to sort of walk people through this. What's a good
harm.
thought? Let's take harm. Okay. So you have a thought like, what if I want to kill my family? And you feel anxious about that, killing as usual. Thank you, Kevin. So yeah, you have this thought, what do I want to kill my family? And you feel anxious or uncertain or doubtful. And so you do this compulsion. What are we going to do? Like, which compulsion should we choose from the grab bag today, Kelly?
I would say, well, should we go really extreme? Maybe like locking all the sharp objects away, or locking yourself in your bedroom at night because you fear you might wake up in the middle of the night and do it.
Or and like a sleepwalking stupor of sorts.
Yeah.
Right. So you do that, and maybe you feel a little bit better temporarily, right? Mm-hmm. But then now you're basically stuck in this cycle because you've taught yourself that the best way to respond to thoughts and feelings is to do something. When in reality, we don't need to do a damn thing. Not one.
Mm-hmm. We just throw our hands up and be like, all right, well, let's let that ride.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, just kick in the crotch.
Yeah, right in the crotch. Yeah, right in the groin. So that's the basics here. And I saw some questions pop up. We can try and find them, but if anyone has questions and you could throw them in the question mark box zone, that allows us to not waste your time trying to find the questions. Do you have anything to add before we?
I will try my best to figure out how to do the question section.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be really exciting. Okay. Let's see. I'm scrolling back.
Well, oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, well, no. What were you going to say?
Well, someone had asked about rumination and how to stop it.
What would you advise to help on bringing yourself out of ruminating?
Step one, you have to recognize, sorry, my cat.
Oh my God, why is she so aggressive right now?
Because I was gone for 7 days, so.
She's really mad about it.
Yeah, sorry guys.
No.
Step one is recognizing that you're actually ruminating.
Yep, that's the awareness.
Numero uno.
Super important because sometimes, and this is part of the sort of tricky element of the more pure subtypes of OCD, is that there's a difference between an obsessive thought and compulsive rumination. Mm-hmm. And so being able to spot yourself when you are actively trying to think your way out of a problem is key. Mm-hmm. Right. So what about step two?
So we have to build awareness with mindfulness. I'll let you talk about that because you're the expert, I think, in that. But for those early on in treatment, and maybe they're not as savvy in mindfulness, a trick I use, which maybe it's not a trick, but it's something I use regularly, is when I notice that I'm physically starting to feel really anxious, like the physical symptoms. And this isn't maybe always going to be helpful to everybody, but it's a cue to tell me, hey, we're feeling anxious right now. Like, probably you're ruminating. And I notice what's going on, like observing, just with a feather, not with a jackhammer. Like, okay, I am ruminating. I don't really need to know why or what, or try to figure out how I got this far. It's just my brain, I got lost for a minute.
Yeah.
So then I come back to the present moment, okay, I'm washing the dishes. So much fun. The five senses. And
I
then
feel
my
the
brain
hot
goes,
water on my hands. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
right. And then my brain goes 2 seconds later, but have you thought about da 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 da? Well, no, I haven't actually. And then maybe I get lost for a couple more minutes. And
Yep,
then, oh, I'm feeling really anxious, right?
yep.
That's a way for one way of doing it. And the goal is to not let it get to where it's happening all the time, but it takes a lot of time and practice to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's, I mean, in short, the only way, right, is noticing that you're doing this behavior, like with any behavior. If you notice that you're looking at the lock on a door, you're going to want to not do that, right?
You're
You're gonna want to walk away from the door.
going to want to just keep walking.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, oh, look, I really want to stare at that door for another 5 seconds just to make sure that it's locked.
Right, right.
Um, and likewise, to notice the desire to keep going, like to keep spinning the story of like, okay, well, this could happen, and then I could do this, and what if I did want to kill my family? Well, if I wake up in the middle of the night and I do, get a knife, then I'll probably notice because the cold steel on my, right, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Um,
I was just washing it and getting it really clean so that I could have a really direct hit for this evening.
well, there's exposure.
Sorry.
you jump, you jumped ahead. I like it. No, it's good. You just right to it, right in the kisser.
Sorry, guys.
So, but I think noticing when that thought comes up, uh, or when thoughts come up and when thinking is happening, because sometimes, I'd say oftentimes, you're catching yourself mid rumination. Yeah, like it's
Yes.
not going to, it's not going to like, you're not going to stop it before it happens most of the time. And that's totally okay. But it's as soon as you realize, oh, wait, I'm really trying to figure this out, that you have this opportunity, like you said, to sort of touch it with the feather of awareness and go like, oh, I'm thinking, oh, good on me for seeing that. I'm just going to bring it on back, right? Like, come on home.
I
And
like that you say that though, like good for me that I did it. I think that's a really important aspect that needs to happen is like, hey, I did that.
yeah, because I think everyone, not everyone, lots of people who are new to meditation, and obviously this is more mindfulness, but meditation is very similar in scope. They have this belief that if their mind has wandered, they're doing it wrong, and that's not it. In fact, that if
That's what it's
you
supposed to do.
right, like if you notice that your mind has wandered, you're doing it right. So let's
Right.
give yourself a big gold star pat on the back, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the meta. It's knowing your brain is having thoughts and seeing it happen.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yeah, I love meditation for this purpose of building this muscle of noticing when you've wandered, bringing yourself back to the present. And of course, with meditation, we typically, with a focused attention meditation, we're focusing on an object like the breath in the present moment. And then when our mind wanders, we notice it, we congratulate ourselves, and then bring our attention back to the present in the form of the breath. So it's sort of like mindfulness in a vacuum. Your eyes are closed and you're just trying to focus on this really kind of banal activity, right? Like that's not going to keep your attention for very long, then noticing when it wanders off and coming on back. And what that does is it makes it easier when you are washing the dishes and you keep wanting to figure out, murdering, whether or not you're going to murder your family. That it makes it easier to go like, I see you. I really do want to figure that out, but I'm going to accept that. I don't know. Maybe I will, and come back
right.
to the suds against my fingers, feeling super slippery.
When you said suds, I thought you meant
Oh, subjective units
subjective
of
units of
distress.
distress. So we have a few questions. Do you
Ooh.
think?
Yeah, no, I think that it's great. Let's go to the actual question mark box.
Um, why isn't it popping up? Hold on.
You're doing this. It's great, girl.
Okay. This is the first one that I see. Can you see
Crushed
it?
it. Yep.
So I'm buying a house, but I can't get excited. Oh boy, I know this one really well. I keep fixating on the what if questions. Is that common with OCD? Well,
Yeah, go.
um, I think it's interesting. I'd love to know what the what ifs are. However, that being said, I don't know if I've ever treated somebody who has OCD and doesn't meet criteria for generalized anxiety disorder. Because this could be a standalone if you don't. Does that make sense? Am I
Yeah,
explaining it
absolutely. No, you're totally explaining it right.
right? Okay.
That there's so much overlap there in terms of, while this would probably, if this was just showing up, if somebody showed up in the office and this was their primary concern, we'd probably say, oh, this is generalized anxiety disorder.
Right.
But I guess it does depend on the what ifs too, right? Like, if I
Yes.
buy this house, am I gonna,
Like a sociopath.
I'm trying to think of a good as, yeah, yep,
It could be
yeah,
anything. It
exactly.
could literally conjure any narrative. Right? If I do
Yes,
this, will an asteroid
totally.
come and murder me? The
Yes.
space aliens.
Asteroids are notorious for murder. That they're kind of the thing.
And hitchhiking with aliens. Naturally.
Obviously. That then eat your brains.
Right.
Murder and then eat the brains. Anyway, so
Medium
I think,
rare.
Yeah,
Okay.
medium rare. Uh, some flava beans and a nice Chianti. Yep.
All right. Sorry, guys.
Coming on back. So I think the answer to your question, in some ways, it's like, I'm fill in the blank. It could be I'm buying a house, I'm having a baby, I'm getting married, all of these like sort of big life events that we should feel excited about, right? And then there's all of this additional chatter that we're having to navigate. And so I think it's very common for people with generalized anxiety and OCD to start in those moments when something really exciting is happening to try to figure out what's going to come in the way of them actually being happy. Yes, I think that that's very common, because those of us with anxiety and OCD are like anxiety seeking missiles. We're like, oh, well, what could go wrong? Right? Like, well, this could go
heat's
wrong.
Coming off of it. Like, you can just feel the heat coming off of our brains.
It's true.
Yeah, and I would also like to say with that is that someone had mentioned earlier in the feed about rumination and how people with OCD, whether or not they have rumination, and I think that is correct. A lot of people without OCD ruminate. In fact, a lot of people who don't even meet criteria for generalized anxiety are going to ruminate. That's what brains do, right?
Yeah.
But is it detrimental and getting in the way? In my opinion, I don't think that worry is going to help you solve any problem.
I would tend to agree with you. And then, and to your point, rumination, we see that happen in a lot of other mental health disorders as well, like depression. So it's not even, like, everyone does it, and it can have different flavors to it that may have nothing to do with anxiety. And it's everyone does it, right? Brains try to figure things out. It's
right. Everyone
they
does
do.
It, guys. You should probably do it.
Except for don't, because it's,
Yeah.
I think the problem with rumination is it's like, you want to probably try and differentiate between problem solving and rumination, right? Like,
Right.
when it comes up, like, is this actually getting me anywhere? Is this actually going to solve anything? Or am I trying to answer a question that cannot be answered? I'm really good at that, by the way. I'm really good at trying to answer questions I cannot know the answer to. The specialty.
You and me both, lady.
I know.
Man, oh man.
Man, oh man. Do we have some other questions? I see.
We do.
Just for anyone who's joining us, if you can throw your questions in the question mark box, so we don't have to scroll through and try and find them and waste your time as we're scrolling.
Right. And also, this will be on playback in both of our IGTV channels, Purely OCD. So for those of you who are just joining us, if you missed anything, like, for example, the rumination stuff, You can watch it after we are done and
Yep.
get
Oh, and
your
YouTube.
questions answered.
We have a
And
YouTube
YouTube.
channel.
I always forget about that sucker.
Well, we need to upload. We gotta get caught up there.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, just real quick, because I saw this, rumination is, because that seems like a really important fundamental point to our conversation about rumination,
Yes.
is any sort of mental analysis, any like sort of churning in the mind, thinking, active thinking, active, I'm trying to think of a worry, right? Like trying to figure it out, basically, in your mind. The
Right,
chatter.
like comparing yourself. That's my doorbell because it's Amazon.
Thanks, Amazon. Ding
In
dong.
case you wanted to know, nobody wants to know.
Yeah.
Okay,
I did.
yeah, be like comparing. Oh, did I say it as well as I said it last time, or did I come right, like that kind of memory comparison?
Hello, Chrissy. Sorry, I
Oh,
just saw a
hello.
hello. Hello. Glad to have you here. I hope you're well.
Amazon has arrived at my house. In case you were interested, Chrissy.
Wait, can I share a really awesome thing that was
Yes.
actually on my post yesterday? Wow, Amazon is really persistent.
Yeah, they're. What do they want?
I
Go
don't
ahead.
know. So actually, so Chrissy commented on my my post yesterday because I posted about my wedding. I recently got married, for those of you who do not know, and she wrote, "Ah, beautiful," and then, but apparently the
What?
"ah, beautiful," she told me after the fact, almost autocorrected to "ah, bestiality."
That would actually have been so. Why did you correct it? Because
I know but at least she shared it with all of us after the fact. So
Oh, good.
that's
Oh,
my new
so
favorite
glad.
thing to say. Like if I think something is really sweet, I'm just going to be like, "Aw, bestiality." That's how you know you work with OCD, is when
Yeah.
bestiality is the like go-to autocorrect on your phone. So
You
anyway,
guys should be at a dinner party with all of us. Is all I can say.
yeah,
Although those aren't being had at the moment, but soon maybe.
yeah, yeah. Chrissy has an awesome mind.
Yes,
Anyway,
she sure does.
true story. Go check her out if you haven't, because she's awesome.
Yes, amazing advocate.
Yep, OCD
And
Game Changers and OCD Peers and all sorts of good stuff. But we digress. We've got
we
to
digress.
stay on the rails. It's right here just to remind me. So what were we talking
So-
about?
We were talking about what rumination was and mental
Yes.
analysis and all of that
Right.
good stuff.
It's trying to get certainty in your brain instead of by checking things or asking for reassurance or avoiding things. That's pretty much it.
So we have a bunch of questions. Do you want me to, because we're 30 minutes in, how do you want to do this?
I can do a little bit longer. You?
Yeah, I can probably do like 10 at the most, though.
Let's do it.
Okay. So,
And we'll be
This-
back next week, people, too. So
yes. Okay. As long as the space alien doesn't come and murder and fry our brains, medium rare.
that's
Okay.
true. How do you approach unwanted images while meditating?
Ooh.
I love this.
Do it.
You just accept the hell out of them. You just are like, oh look, there's an image. There it is. There is an image. Okay. Well, thank you, brain. I'm actually trying to focus on my breath right now, so I'm gonna bring it on back. But thank you. And the image doesn't have to go away, right? It's just about noticing that the image is there without making it the central point of your attention.
Right, and it might be there the whole time.
Mhm.
But to say I can handle this experience or these distressing feelings maybe that come with the image, and just stick with it. Don't just like jump out of the cold pool and not let your body heat up to it.
Right. Just allow yourself to be with it and see what happens. I actually do we have time for a quick digression, like a story demonstrating?
Well,
or should
always.
we go? So I used to watch the show Orange is the New Black. I haven't seen it in many seasons, but there was an episode where this sadistic jail guard was offering two hypothetical options to two of the inmates who said, would you rather eat
Oh,
10, yeah, oh, this is always a good one, eat 10 dead flies or a,
naturally.
a live baby rat?
The flies.
100% the flies, but for some reason she said the rat, which was
Why?
because
It's
well,
TV.
it's TV, and wait for it, right? So then
She
it
gets
cuts to a
rabies.
scene. No, it cuts to a scene where she has to choose and actually do one of them, and so she has to eat the baby rat. Well, I'm watching this and I have a brain that's sticky. So I notice, like, oh, wow, like this is now an image in my mind. And my initial,
I love when that happens.
oh, I was like, wow,
I'll
this
be
is a,
carrying this for another week or so.
yeah, welcome aboard, passenger.
Yeah.
And it
Have
was
you met the
so
others?
meat bestiality,
Yes.
whatever. And so I honestly, I was like initially really resistant to it, but then I was already a therapist at the time, and I thought, okay, well, I know how to deal with this. The
Hmm.
answer is not to resist; it's to just make a whole lot of space for it, and even intentionally, like, oh yeah, look, baby, people swallowing baby rats, and really thinking about the stuff that was freaking me out, right? Like, first of all, I'm a huge animal lover, so the idea that somebody would eat a live animal is really upsetting to me. But then the sort of claws on the throat situation was something that kind of kept coming up for me.
Great. See?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome. Have you met the others? Shit.
That is something that I will be using from here on out. Anyway, so all of that to say, whether you're living your life or meditating, if an image pops up, you can just say, welcome, have you met the others? That's the moral of the story right there. Bam.
I'm sorry. I can't. I'm like I'm not supposed to laugh, and I'm laughing because I'm really anxious about it.
I know, because it's anxiety provoking.
Okay.
Did I just trigger you?
No, it's not anxiety. It's just that it's like, great, now I have that. It's the exact scenario that we just discussed is now happening to me. And it's just the irony is great. It's like,
Yes,
well, that's why we are who we are.
that's right.
Okay. Great answer.
Well, you did the best part of the answer, so there you go.
Okay.
Welcome, have you met the others?
Yes. Let me start at the bottom. We're getting a lot.
Thanks everybody for
Yeah.
asking your questions.
No, we are so excited
Yeah.
about that. Okay, so this one says, is it possible to project my OCD fears onto others, like my fear of being carried out by others? So I assume this means,
Like, what if somebody harms me?
right. Or what if the fear is that, that I don't, molest my child, but somebody else might,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So it's like the by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they can clarify, but
Yeah.
but the answer is yes.
Yeah, and it actually even comes up in things like BDD, just like BDD by proxy, that kind of stuff.
Say more.
So it tends to come up in the context of like relationship OCD and the fear that
Oh, right.
you're with somebody who's, there's some part of their appearance that is not perfect. And so you become fixated on it. And perhaps you think that it's, unlivable. You have to break
Right.
up with them, right? That sort of narrative.
I've actually had a client where it was, it's interesting because I've been seeing them for a very long time, and they had kids and things were recovery. And then like a year later, there was a new spike. But one of the spikes was similar to this was around sexual orientation, OCD. Is what if my partner is into guys and not ladies anymore?
Yep. Perfect. Yeah.
yeah.
So the answer is yes, absolutely. Your fears can be about somebody else, right? And
Yes.
what they're going to do.
Okay. Questions. Okay. This one says, every time someone I love goes anywhere out of the house, I do these routines and I tell them every possible way they could die because it makes me feel like I'm protecting them from that actually happening. Am I the only one and what can I do? This is a great one.
Hmm.
I mean, not great in that it's horrific to live with, but
Right. But a good
yeah.
question.
Great
You wanna
question.
take
Clarify.
the lead on that one?
Do you want me? Is it me?
Do it.
Okay. So this is really common. And in fact, you probably feel, my guess is that you probably feel tons of guilt if you don't give all the disclaimers and possible things. But yeah, I mean, I guess the question was, is it normal? Is that what it said? You're not the only one, and what can you do? Well, the scary part is the stuff that you have to do is going to be really scary and hard, and it's going to say, I'm going to have to sit with all the intrusive thoughts and feelings and images of, a car accident happening or whatever, etc., right?
Yeah.
Without acting compulsively by telling them, here, before you leave the house, I need you to sign this waiver
Right.
that says that you are consenting, that these are all the possible. What's that one movie where it's like 100 Ways to Die in the West or in the,
Oh, I haven't seen it, but I
I don't
I
know.
know of it. Yeah.
I forget
Yeah.
what it's called.
But that's right though, right? Like being willing to tolerate that guilt. But were you going to say more? Sorry. Did I cut you off?
That, I think that was it.
Okay, good. Well, no, I mean
Is
that's
there anything you want to add to this?
well, I I think that part of what's important, and obviously, like we can't give direct advice, but I think with the routines, I think recognizing that because most of the time people with OCD recognize that it's like possible that that bad thing could happen if you don't tell them everything, but that it's not particularly likely that that's the thing that's going to save their lives, right? And so
Right.
it's sort of like a I'm going to do this just in case, right? Just to make sure.
Little insurance.
Yes, just a little insurance policy. And I think recognizing, I mean, this is where I think treatment goes ultimately. It's realizing like the unfortunate fact is that we cannot control those things. Right? Like that there's nothing that we can do, really. I mean, we can be as safe as possible ourselves, but I think that that's pretty much it. So learning how to tolerate this sort of groundlessness of every time that my loved ones leave the house, right? I think most people already have that awareness. They just
They don't pay
they don't
attention to it.
pay attention to it, right? Like they don't have the awareness of it. They if you were to ask them, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, well of course I'm accepting that uncertainty," but they just don't even think about it.
Right. I mean, it could be similar to someone saying, like, okay, in like the very superstitious stuff, it's like, well, I have to knock on wood in order to prevent that from happening. And if that were true, we would all be carrying blocks of wood
Yeah.
around our neck.
And wouldn't it be great? I always go back to that. It's like it's such a convenient
really would.
idea. It's like, of course, if that were true, then great. Problem is that it's not, and it's almost like this scaffolding that's put into place to make us feel more secure with a very uncertain world, right? Like this, if I just do this, everything's going to be okay. That starts to screw you because then you're just trying to get certainty. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Am I saying that clearly?
Yes, absolutely. You're saying it right on point. Good work. So
Yeah.
I just want to, should we address the comment right now?
Which one?
The bestiality.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
someone just had said bestiality is sick. And I would just like to say this is a really common OCD theme, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, you saying that might be triggering other people. Not that we're trying to avoid triggers, but you're judging it. And the people that are suffering and living with those intrusive thoughts are feeling pain just like anyone else is that's here today in this online video, where they're worried they might harm someone, right?
Totally.
It's very much around like the sexual, intrusive, violent thoughts.
Yep. No, it is. It's super common. And to sort of piggyback on that, the reality is there's a difference between bestiality, the act, right?
Right. Murder and
yeah, well, and victimizing animals, right, that can't consent, which of course, like, it's not okay. Non-consensual sex is
that.
not cool. And at the same token, having thoughts of or images of, right, like that's different from bestiality. So
Right.
important delineation.
Yes.
And if you have thoughts about it, you're not alone.
Yes. Do you want to take one more? Because we're approaching.
Yeah, we could do one more.
Okay.
One more.
I'm trying to grab a quick one.
And as you're grabbing, just thank you all so much for being here today. And if you, just as a reminder, if you want to join us next week, we'll be back 12:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time here on Instagram Live.
Okay. This person asks, when you have a thought you want to kill someone, does that make you a bad person?
Well, I think, first of all, the idea of bad versus good person is pretty black and white.
Right.
So I just want to start there. There's a lot to be said about this comment, but I think that this idea that like we are either good or bad is inherently problematic because most people are some combination of the two. And I don't think that there's a thought in this world that makes anyone a bad person.
Here's I'm really truly not trying to give reassurance here, is that I can't tell you how many times in my lifetime I've had thoughts like that.
Right.
And they may be like egosyntonic or ego dystonic. Right? Like it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. And I think this is too where like moral aspects of OCD can come in and be like, oh, you're not allowed to have these quote unquote bad thoughts. It's like, well, but your brain is a thinking machine. It generates thoughts all the time, the time. So I would be more concerned if you didn't have random upsetting thoughts.
Right. Because we all do.
Right. Your brain's working. Good news.
Good news. And yeah, I really do, down to all thoughts. There's not a bad one. Mm-hmm. None of them mean a damn thing necessarily.
Other than your brain's working, which I guess is kind of inherently a positive.
That's fair. That's true. Good job,
But if
brain.
we got really existential here, yes, there's no good or bad.
No. Well, and I think it's important. It's not like to go too extreme, but to recognize, because I think people get stuck, especially with moral scrupulosity around like, am I bad? Mm-hmm. And it's like, there's room to accept the fact that we are both. Maud agrees.
Maud is very much in agreement. She concurs.
Totally. Thank you, Maud. Thank you for rounding out this episode of Purely OCD. We appreciate it. She's our mascot.
Which, by the way, her doctor has, and this is not a joke, has diagnosed her with OCD because she compulsively chews fabric. And I'm sorry, she's on intense medication, so I'm sorry for the disruption. But she, if I lock her out, she'll cry. So might as well have her here with us.
That's right. That's right. We're all just living with OCD. That's what we're doing
the best we can.
That's right. All right.
Okay.
Well, see you next time.
Till we meet again.
Indeed.
All right,
Adios.
folks. Thanks for
Arrivederci.
joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.